last sessions we have talked about the personality of these individuals, and on basis of these personalities we have talked about the so many attributes of personality also. And when we are talking about the cognitive component, that is the emotional component of the leader, then definitely in that case question arises, that is how much emotional a leader should be. Whether he should be emotional or not, that is itself is a question, and this particular session will talk about all these issues, that what should be the emotional the status of the leader. So, we will talk about the affect, emotions and moods, affective event theory, definition of emotional intelligence, ability model, mixed model, implications of the emotional intelligence, and as usual the research paper, case study and book recommendations and references will be there. So, whenever we are talking about the emotions, so Daniel Goleman's contribution is highly recognized and accepted in the academia, and here is the quote given by the Daniel Goleman, that is the what really matters for success, character, happiness and lifelong achievements is a definite set of emotional skills. So, therefore, whenever we are talking about these success, character or happiness, then it becomes very important, that is we are talking about that is how we are emotional status do we have. Your EQ, emotional quotient, not just purely cognitive abilities that are measured by conventional IQ test is there. So, earlier we were talking about the IQ, intelligent quotients, then we talk about the EQ, and definitely I will also speak later on in further sessions about the SQ, spiritual quotient also. So, whenever we are talking about the success of a leader, so success of a leader depends on the IQ, EQ and SQ. On basis of this IQ, EQ and SQ, we talk about the affect, emotions and moods. So, affect is a broad range of feeling that people experience. So, therefore, in that case these are the feelings which normally the people experience, and these feelings actually here I would also like to connect these feelings with the behavior. So, because the feelings that create the attitude, and that attitude converts into the behavior. The emotions, that is the intense feeling that are directed at someone or someone of something is there, and therefore, these the emotions we are having the intense feeling. And what is the moods are? Feelings that tend to be less intense than emotions, and that lacks a contextual stimulus is there, right. So, therefore, in that case whenever we are talking about the affect, so it is defined in the form of the emotions and moods are there, that can be experienced in the form of emotions and mood. These feelings are concerned with the emotions and moods are there. Normally, emotions are the caused by the specific event, and very brief in duration, or the seconds or the minutes are there. So, therefore, that has to be very brief in duration. Specific and numerous in nature. For example, the many specific emotions such as anger, fear, sadness, happiness, disgust and surprise is there, and this will be deciding about, that is what sort of these emotions we are having. Whenever we are talking about the basic emotions, so there are the dozens including the anger, contempt, enthusiasm, envy, fear, frustration, disappointment, embarrassment, disgust, happiness, hate, hope, jealousy, joy, love, pride, surprise and sadness is there. So, therefore, these are the certain emotions which have been given, the examples are there, and as we see, that is these basic emotions, whenever we are having this part of these personality of the leader, then we have to understand what type of emotions a leader has to demonstrate. So, numerous researchers have tried to limit them to a fundamental set, and many researchers agree on 6 essentially universal emotions, that is the anger, fear, sadness, happiness, disgust and surprise is there. So, therefore, in that case like the MBTI, Myers-Briggs type indicator, we have seen that there were the 16,000 personalities, but ultimately we have converted into the 16 types of the personality typology. Similarly, there will be the hundreds of the emotions will be there, but basically all these emotions which have been classified in the umbrella of the 6 colors. And when we are talking about the basic moods, that is the positive and the negative affect is there, and that is called the pana. Positive affect and negative affect is there. Whenever we are talking about the positive affect, a mood dimension that consists of the specific positive emotions such as excitement, self assurance and cheerfulness at the high end, and boredom, sluggishness and tiredness at the low end. So, here it is becoming very important, that is whenever we are having this type of this excitement is there. So, the specific the positive happening is there, and whenever there is a positive happening, then we are going by this the positive effect is there. So, there can be the low positive effect and the always we can talk about the high positive effect is there. So, these are the examples are given in the diagram. In the negative effect, a mood dimension that consists of emotions such as nervousness, stress and anxiety at the high end, and the relaxation, tranquility and poise at the low end is there. So, therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the when we are having the low negative effect of our emotions and the high negative effect is there. So, this the high negative effect which we are having in the emotions and moods, that is creating whether the how the person that will take the decisions also. So, it is affecting on the decision making process also. So, what are the sources of emotions are there? So, sources of emotions are the personality, age, weather, stress and exercise is there. And whenever we are talking about these dimensions, some of them are the demographic dimensions are there, and the other side is that these are the like for example the sleep. So, when you must have realized that when you had a sound sleep, so when you had a sound sleep, then definitely your mood and emotions they are having the positive effect, but when your sleep is disturbed, so next day you will find that your mood is also disturbed. So, in the case of this again it depends, sources of emotions are on the gender also, right. So, lot of studies have been done, that is the in a given situation the emotional the what will be the response emotionally, and that will be decided on the basis of the gender also. So, gender also affects the emotions. Then the social activities are there, how much you are involved in social activities. So, higher the involvement in the social activities, higher is the positive effect, lower is the involvement in the social activities, then the negative effect is there. And then therefore, then in that case your sources of emotions, right. So, for example, you are having the a pleasant gathering, social gathering, then in the social activity, then definitely you will have the positive emotions are there. Suppose unfortunately we are participating, acting into this the negative social activity of any sorrow or in case of death and all. So, naturally our emotions that will be also affected by the surrounding the social environment. It also depends on the day of the week and the time of the day is there. So, therefore, in many people they have the very positive emotions in the morning, and those who are having these the negative emotions that is the in the evening. Simple as a student you can also find out that is the when you are the best in learning studies. So, many students you see that is they study late night, some students they study early morning. So, therefore, they find that is the yes the this time of the day that is also affecting their emotions and moods, and whenever they are having these positive emotions and moods that is affecting their emotions. So, felt emotions are an individual's actual emotions which the person is having the felt, and the displayed emotions are the emotions that are organizationally required and considered appropriate in a given job is there. So, therefore, in the case of this whenever we are talking about, for example, social activities. So, in social activity when we display the emotions, we display the emotions as per the norms of the society. The desire of the society is there, and therefore, in that case it is very very important that is the we are having this display of the emotions, right. That is they are organizationally required at a workplace also. At workplace also like emotion expression with the boss, and the emotional expression into the any organizational meeting or gathering is concerned, and then it has to be with the appropriate expression of emotions, display of emotions appropriately with the job is concerned. So, here is the affective events theory, which talks about a model that suggests that workplace events cause emotional reactions on the part of employees, which then influence workplace attitude and behaviors are concerned. And therefore, in that case whenever we are talking, these dimensions are very very important, that is the at workplace how you are having these the effect of yeah, the work environment at your emotions are employees emotions are concerned. So, here that particular characteristics of the job. So, we have talked about the personality job fit model, PJF model of Holland's personality job fit model, and there we have talked about that is job contribution, job satisfaction will be more when the characteristics of the job is matching with the individual's personal effectiveness, right. So, therefore, if the person is having the this personality job fit, then the job satisfaction will be very high. So, these characteristics of the jobs that is the always that has to be matched with the personality, personal dispositions are there, and then you find and that is the employees are deeply involved in their jobs. So, that employee engagement, employee commitment, employee loyalty, right. Why it is with some employees and not with the others? The reason is that is a personality of the individuals and the characteristics of the job. Whenever we are having the matching of this the personality of the individuals with the characteristics of the job, then there will be the higher job satisfaction. So, job satisfaction will be higher. So, second is the job demands. So, how the job demands are there? Job demands by the superior, job demands by the environment, job demands by the particular social environment, maybe the economic environment, maybe the technological environment, right. So, if somebody is required to be a very high tech savvy, that is a job demand is there, and if he is able to fulfill, yes, his emotions are to be positive. But if there is a job demand which requires a high tech savvy, simple example is of the Excel sheet. So, if there is a staff and staff knows the Excel sheet, right, and then earlier he was not knowing, but his personality is too eager to learn. So, when he is eager to learn, and then job demand is there to run the Excel sheet, and so he has learned and exercising that Excel sheet, then definitely there will be the job satisfaction will be there. So, emotional labor requirements are there. Then what is the emotional labor requirement? That is a social demands at the workplace. So, whenever here I will also like to connect these cognitive dissonance theory. So, in the emotional labor, who is the emotional labor? Emotional labor is a person who expresses the emotions as per the situation, right. So, whenever when the boss says that is the this is the decision is to be taken, and in spite of that, that is the you do not find this decision is right, but you express happiness and then you say yes sir, yes, this is very right decision you have taken. So that is the emotional labor is there, right. So I remember that some of the episodes of the Jaspal Bhatti, where the dog dies, boss dogs dies, and then the whole office visits to the boss, and then they express very their emotional sadness, that is the that is like this something big has been lost. So that expression emotional, otherwise they were not feeling that it is really a big loss to the boss. So but they were expressing that those emotions to make the boss happy and not by the heart. So if this type of the issues are there, then we will say that is emotional labor expression is there. And when there are by heart there are emotions and then you are expressing the emotions, then that is not the emotional labor example of the labor. So therefore, if the boss dog has died and then you were used to visit to the boss home, and then you were also getting the connected with the dog of the boss, and it was recognizing you, and therefore you were having a emotional connect with that pet animal, and then something wrong happens, then definitely that is not a case of the emotional labor, because by heart you are feeling bad about it. Now the work events are there daily, that is our emotions depends on the daily hassles. For example, simple example is about the waiting for the boss appointment, or the sitting outside of the boss cabin, and then the looking for the interaction or meeting. So therefore, these meeting timings which you find are not very fruitful, in daily there are meetings are there. So this will be the daily hassles will be there, daily uplifts will be there. So therefore, in that case whatever the work events are is happening positive, if it is happening positive, then definitely you are having this the uplifts are there. Whenever you will having the negative at workplace, then definitely you will have the negative emotions. Now here the word has been used daily. So therefore, we have to highly concern. We have to concern that if every day we are feeling uncomfortable at the workplace, what will happen? Employees turnover will increase. This is the culture of the organization. It also expresses the culture of the organizations where the employees are not happy. Now, whenever if the things are positive, work environment is positive, work events are the comfortable, then definitely the emotional reaction will be positive. And whenever there will be the positive emotional reaction, there will be the job satisfaction. Higher the job satisfaction, better will be the performance, right. Here we will find that is the whatever the work events are there and what are the emotional reactions are there, it depends on the individual. Why? Because the individual having his own personality and his own moods, ups and downs of the swings of the moods he is having. So therefore, that personal predispositions, so that is to be considered. So therefore, in that case, in the emotional reactions, that is the job performance is required has to be considered. So here emotional reactions are there, they are the positive or negative. So there here we will find about the job satisfaction, and then and basis on this job satisfaction emotional reactions, there will be the job performance is there. So in the personal dispositions are concerned, the role of these individual, it plays a very important role, and naturally whenever the affective events theory it talks about, that is these workplace events cause emotional reactions on the part of employees, because these employees, which then influence workplace attitudes and behavior is there, and this will be the attitude and behavior, and therefore either if it is a positive, job performance will increase, job satisfaction also increase, right. So, here you will find that is the yes whenever we are talking about this workplace environment and the emotions, then definitely here it becomes very very important according to affective events theory, that is the emotions and moods of the employees depends on the work environment, work events and the personality of the employees, right. Now, there can be a lot of discussion also on this, that is whenever we are talking about this work environment. So, we have to create the great place work. It should not be only good place work. Good place to work has been the old this understanding, while when we are talking about the great place to work, then here it becomes very very important. That is the we are having the HR practices in such a way, are these are practice? Yes, these are practiced. For example, when we are talking about the Goldman Sachs, Apple or Infosys or the Tata Group companies, and there we nowadays we find that is the especially in the service sections of these industries, that is the employees, they can take the break, they can have the eatables easily available to them, they can relax if they are having the high stress, they can visit to the sports ground or the sports facilities whatever is available there, or the recreation facilities which are available in their that office premises or the factory premises. So, therefore, in that case on the basis of this the emotion work environment can be created. And naturally personality, as we have talked earlier, that is the it depends on the individuals is there, but by the work event like the celebration of the birthdays, right. So, that will be the work event, and definitely this type of the events that will making the more positive this the more positive emotions will be raised amongst the employees. Now, when we are to talk about the emotional intelligence, the Peter Selve and John Mayer has given that is he defined the emotional intelligence as a group of mental abilities that help people to recognize their own feelings and those of others. So, therefore, in that case their own feelings and others feelings that will be definitely recognized by this by the self. One should be also able to understand that is what makes his positive mood and emotions, and what makes the negative moods and emotions, then he can work on that. And he believed that emotional intelligence was another way of measuring human effectiveness, and defined it as a set of 15 abilities necessary to cope with the daily situations and get along in the world is there. And therefore, in that case you will find that there are the different traits, personality traits have been mentioned for control the emotions. Rick Aberman defined emotional intelligence as the degree to which the thoughts, feelings and actions were aligned. And according to him, leaders are more effective and in the zone when their thoughts, feelings and actions are perfectly aligned. So, therefore, in that case this emotional intelligence which is required to be the more effective, and always whenever our thoughts, feeling and actions are aligned at the workplace, then definitely in that case you will find the employees are more having the positive emotions. Now, the Daniel Goleman has given success in life is based more on one's self motivation, persistence in the face of the frustration, mood management, ability to adopt and the ability to empathize and get along with others than on one's analytic intelligence or IQ is there. So, therefore, this is one's self motivation is becoming very very more important, and this again the self motivation, it depends on the personality of individual and the family. The persistence in the face of the frustration, mood management, ability to adapt and ability to empathize and get along with others, and this is it is very very important at the workplace. Ability to adopt and ability to empathize and get along with others. So, therefore, in this nowadays that most of these issues are that is because of these they are not able to get along with others. The team effectiveness is not there. So, therefore, in that case to get the along with others for creation of the team effectiveness, team building by the leader, it is important that you are able to manage the moods of that particular employee. If you are able to manage the moods of the employee, then definitely you will have the better team effectiveness. There are these two dimensions which have been mentioned, models of emotional intelligence, ability model and the mixed model. The ability model focuses on how emotions affect the way leaders think, decide, plan and act. So, therefore, if the leader is in the happy mood, so he will think, he will decide and plan and act happily. If he is having that is in the mixed model the broader and more comprehensive definition, then the ability model, because it includes more leadership qualities. So, therefore, in that case it becomes the more leadership qualities are becoming very important, that is the it is always has to be seen, that is the it includes the ability of that leader which is making the more interaction and the not only of the one dimensions of the individual, but it is also integrating the other dimensions also. So, in the case of the ability model by the Meyer Silva and the Caruso, it is the that we have talked about, that is how emotions like the individual is happening. While in the case of the mixed model, so emotional competence is model by the Daniel Goleman, right, and that is becoming like self awareness, self regulation, empathy, motivation and socialization. So, therefore, these 5 dimensions given by this Daniel Goleman, they are becoming the more mixed models type. The bar on the emotional social intelligence model is there, and in that case as per the society norms, the behavior that will be also a mixed model of the emotional intelligence. And these developed by these Peter Selve and the John D. Mayer, the ability model, assumptions of ability model are emotional intelligence defined within the confines of the standard criteria for a new intelligence. So, therefore, that will be having the new intelligence is there, are useful sources of information to make sense of navigate their social environments, and the individuals vary. So, in their but individual to individual they will vary in case of their ability to process information of an emotional nature, inability to relate emotional processing to a wider cognition, and these abilities manifest in certain adaptive behaviors are there. 4 abilities of the ability model of emotional intelligence is the perceiving emotions, understanding emotions and using emotions. The perceiving emotions are the ability to decipher emotions in faces, pictures, voices and the cultural artifacts are there, and therefore, in that case here it is the ability of these emotions that has to be seen. So, understanding emotions is the ability to comprehend emotion language and to appreciate the complicated relationships among the emotions are there. So, here we will find that is the whenever we are talking about this the understanding the emotions, then it is becoming to making the appreciate the complicated relationship among emotions. If we are able to make that these emotions more and more by understanding of each other, then that is better, and the using the emotions, that is the perceiving the emotions, understanding the emotions and using the emotions. When we are talking about the perceiving the emotions, that is by what we senses, for example, that is the face, pictures, voices and culture artifacts are there. Understanding is there, that is the emotion language, and therefore, through our senses many times we understand the emotions, and using the emotions are harness emotions to facilitate various cognitive activities such as thinking and problem solving. So, managing emotions are the ability to regulate emotions in the both ourselves and in others are there. So, that emotions management is required. And how we this understand with the help of the mixed model of the emotional intelligence, that is the emotional competencies, developing the emotional competencies. So, people are born with general emotional intelligence that determines their potential for learning emotional competencies. So, that is about the general, and these competencies are learned capabilities that must be worked on to achieve the outstanding performance are there. So, the personal competency for these emotional intelligence, that is a self awareness, self regulation, motivation, empathy and social skills are there, which I mentioned earlier. So, self awareness is, that is the how I get emotional, accurate and self assessment and self confidence, while the motivation is the achievement, commitment, initiative and the optimism is there. Self regulation is self control, trustworthiness, conscientiousness, adaptability and the innovations are there. And the social skills which required for these emotional competency is how do you manage the conflict, how do you bring the changes, how your team capabilities are there, communication with the others and the leadership qualities with your followers and building bonds and the cooperation is there. In the self awareness, it is becoming very important that you do not understand only yourself, but you are making the understanding the others also, and definitely in that case you will be able to develop the emotional intelligence. So, developed by the Revenue Baron, he was first on to use the term emotional quotient. So, the bar on emotional intelligence model assumptions and developers over time that can be improved through the training or therapy. Emotional intelligence and cognitive intelligence contribute equally to a person's general intelligence, which then indicates one's potential to succeed in life is there. So, whenever we are having individuals with higher than average emotional quotients in general more successful, then their environmental meeting demands and pressures are there. Deficiency in emotional quotients can mean a lack of success and the emotional problems are there. The Baron model factors there too, that is the intrapersonal and adaptability is there. Whenever we are talking about the intrapersonal emotional social intelligence, then emotional self awareness, knowing yourself, how much assertive you are, independence and self actualization or self regard is there. In the case of the adaptability, it is reality testing, flexibility and problem solving is there. Whenever we are talking about stress management, stress tolerance and the impulse control, that is very important. In the case of the interpersonal is there, that is the social responsibility and interpersonal relationship with others, that is applicable at the workplace also. And in the general mode, it is the optimism and happiness is there, and that decide about the emotional social intelligence. How is your emotional social intelligence? So, people can extremely ineffective when their thoughts, feelings and actions are misaligned. EQ literature has helped bring emotions back to workplace. Research indicated that emotional quotient moderates employees' reactions to job insecurity and their feelings are there. These are as usual, this is a research paper which you can refer for this for your further research interest and the findings of this research. Then also you can refer this case study, happiness coaches for the employees, that is the how the happiness has been developed, which you can also see, and then this will be the assignment, that is what you can do for the happiness of your employees are concerned. Happiness coaches are effective or not. And finally, this is the book, that is a primal leadership which you can refer, and on basis of these recommendations you can understand, because this is the one of the authors of this authors Daniel Goleman, Richard Birds is an Animac. This groundbreaking book remains a must read for anyone who leads or aspire to lead. So, primal leadership that you can refer for developing the more about the emotional intelligence and the leadership understanding. These are the as usual references which you can refer for your further studies. Thank you.